Hello, thank you for joining us again for another one of our podcasts. The Truth of the Matter is with Mary and Pam. I am Pam Hardin, and I am so excited for you to be here today. We have some special guests with us here today. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves to you. And this is Mary Ratliff. And do you have anything you'd like to say before we get started?
No, I'm sure I'll have a lot to say during the process, but I'm so happy to have our guests here always to help us, because our job is to try to inform the community of things that we can do to make our community better. So thank you all so much for being with me this time.
Yes, and we'd like for you to take this opportunity to introduce yourselves and let us know the name of the program that you all are here to represent.
I appreciate you, Pam. My name is Scott Claybrook. So help within the community with a program called Arise Dwellings. So we're specifically trying to create affordable home ownership and make home ownership accessible kind of across the community, especially in parts of our community where it's not historically been accessible.
And I'm DeMarcus Thomas Brown. I pastor in the city, but also him representing Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And we are looking to partner and work with Arise Dwellings and have recognized what they do and the integral part they are. We're talking about ownership, especially for Black and Brown individuals in what has historically been Black and Brown neighborhoods in Columbia, Missouri.
Okay, very well. I know one of the things that I wanted to know was, how would one go about getting into your program or obtaining a loan even to be a part of the program that you all are trying to have established? Mm-hmm.
I'm known, as DeMarcus would say, to make a short story longer. So I'm going to try to be brief, but to answer that question, I feel like we need to answer just one other thing that I think could be helpful. The barriers that we're talking about that exist in, for example, owning in our community, they're not easy, right? And I'm speaking to the choir, but the reality is that there's not just lending barriers, but can we get access to homes that are affordable and quality? Mm-hmm. That we're not buying something that's going to fall in, or we're going to have to put tens of thousands of dollars into within the first 5 to 10 years just to make it livable. And so one of the things we've been really working on is, when you approach coming to the program or coming to get access, first off, starting with trying to get access to the community leaders like these spaces, to say, who are the people that you know who are close but need a little support, to be able to get across that finish line and be able to navigate the process that they've never navigated before. So the first thing we've done is trying to develop some homes and a process. Now that is working, we are trying to really work within the community to work relationally and say, hey, who do you know that is right there? So I would say a direct contact to us through our website, and we can share that information, arisedwellings.com, or direct reach on our phone number, 573-315-4030 would be an easy way to connect. But I say it that way because if we just give people access to programs, it may still feel out of reach. But if we come alongside, shoulder to shoulder in relationship, we can kind of hold folks' hand to be able to make a next step. And the second part of your question of how do we access lending, that's the complex part, is that we don't have a good history, both in our city and in our nation, of lending programs that make it accessible for folks not only to understand, but to overcome the barriers that have been at times put in place by design, and even to date exist whether we know them or not. Yes. So we really try to come alongside to be able to help navigate those difficult waters together.
And that's been the partnership with Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Is just being able to have that relational, because I always think of what you say, Miss Mary, when we're at an NAACP function, you say it's civil rights, not civil wrongs, right? And if you're doing wrong out here, don't think we're going to come in and try to, it's civil rights. We want to be involved in civil rights. And it's the same way when Scott's talking about relationship, we're working with people who can actually have that mindset. Because not everybody, then in our communities, we're saying, hey, it's a mindset. Ownership is key. Do you want to leave something to your babies? What's legacy mean for you? What do you think about where my great grandmother and them and all those, they had ownership, and we've seen it get squandered because of the lack of mindset in the next generation.
That's right.
And so we're trying to help those develop the mindset that we can be a bridge into what Arise Dwellings is doing, because sometimes we send people that way and the mindset's not there, and then it becomes a curse, if we're honest.
And that's why it's so important, because the only way that that wealth is going to be acquired by those that don't have it is by property ownership. And in the past, we know, especially the people in the South, that had land, they weren't getting rid of that. African American people were not getting rid of that land. They were leaving that land for their children so that they would not be without in the same situation, because to save money is very difficult. It's very difficult to do so, that to acquire some kind of way to be an active part of society financially. We have to start teaching people the importance of ownership, and because money is just liquid fluid, and it does not last. We know that. So it is that what you all are doing is so important for our community, and we are so proud of you all stepping forward. We're proud of you guys stepping forward. We're going to be working very closely with you all, hopefully in the past, to make the difference that we need to make, that we can make in Columbia by sharing. And informational sharing is the important thing. One of the things that this is just me now. With the NAACP thing that the youth developed is that I have a problem with, because I think that's a lack of understanding. Their theme was that old keys can't open new doors. And so I just reversed it. And I said, old keys, new keys can't open doors. Yep. There's a lot of history behind those old closed doors that you can't unlock and get into. And that's a very important. So when I do teaching, training, I emphasize the importance of not ever letting the chain be broken, not ever start the bridge to where your destination is and not get it to the other side. Yes. I have to bring someone along with you. So that's one of the things that I want to make sure that we relate to. I am totally supportive of young people, training young people. I've trained her for years, along with many of those other young people that I can name in the community here that's come through the NAACP and got the training that they need, because we know that we need that youth energy, and even with technology. My grandbaby probably can work my phone better than my great granddaughter can work my telephone better than I can. Okay, so we need to understand that the wisdom behind that closed door that we're talking about, and how it can connect with that key that opens that new door. Okay? All right.
And another thing, now the housing that you all are talking about provide. Now, is this throughout the city? Is there a certain locale that you're working in? Or is it widespread throughout the city? Just trying to get a little familiar with.
Yeah. So just kind of zooming out to zoom in, about 3 years ago, my wife and I also, alongside DeMarcus and others in the city, have pastored here and just for some years. And what I saw again and again and again is folks that we love and we know and we walk with struggle with housing insecurity, and particularly Black and brown family. Folks that we walk with, that we recognize, it's like, wait a second, not only is this a struggle, but this is a struggle it's not equitable. It's not happening across the board in similar ways. But then at the same time, anybody in a kind of a lower economic bracket, everybody there is struggling, right? But again, even within that bracket, disproportionately. And so my wife and I, about 3.5 years ago, decided to do something that had been on our heart and to try to develop something. And so by God's grace, we were able to take everything we had life savings wise, and we had to call some family. Hey, we're a little short. And we invested in a first house to be able to learn the process. Some incredible contractors, mostly from the neighborhoods and from our local scene, we were able to hire, and not only did they do the work on this first house, but we were able to learn. So over the last 3 years, we were able to do 3 homes and develop them. And then last year we had a kind of a miraculous provision. There was an individual who stepped in who wants to remain anonymous, but helped us to do a lot more than we could ever do on our own. And so we were able to purchase a number of homes Central City. Right now we're working on 14 homes and 3 vacant lots on Rangeline and 8th Street. So right down in Central City here. Historically, Black homeowners in that area. There's also historically workforce housing in that area, originally built in the 20s. And so we were fortunate to be able to acquire those and hold them in a unique way because it's allowing us to renovate them in a high quality way, put tens of thousands of dollars into each house, and then not have to put them on the market, so that we can work directly with community organizations, directly with relationships that we know, in order to be able to make progress in giving people access.
And that's and he's not selling himself short, but before 3 years ago, I think when we connected 2016, 2015, 2016, around the same time I connected with Reverend Richardson, your heart was burning for the First Ward. And I'm like, hey man, let that go. That ship has sailed. First Ward's gone. The housing authority's done their whole plan. We're not there no more. And you remember these conversations, brother. You can't let it go. We can't let it go. I'm like, and this is a white individual, right? Saying, hey man, like this is not right. What are we gonna do? And I'm like, look, it's gone. First Ward's gone. They took it. And then to watch as we realize privilege is real. And to what there are few who, there's a lot of people like to talk about it. There's few who will get in the fight and become advocates and utilize it, and then end up being almost turned on because they have the privilege, and others see them utilizing it for the betterment of a community, right? And I've seen him do this. And so First Ward was a heartache for him. I'm like, look, this is going. He's like, okay, is there anything we can do? I'm like, man, this is a system, right? It's systemic. I don't know that, and getting in that maybe we can do something. Maybe we can start with 3 houses. Was really a heartburn from just your family, and really the Spirit God has given you to look at this in a lens. So then, Miss Mary, to your statement, it was phenomenal because as you're embarking over Rangeline and 8, I have my great grandmother had the house right there where the Columbia College Spring soccer field is. She had a house there. They got her out of her house, told her descendants would be able to go to Columbia College for free. We didn't go to Columbia College for free, and they didn't get it in writing. And so they swindled her house out of her. And there's a nice soccer field there, right by the property he's working with. And so he said, hey, we need to understand historically what's been going on. So we're talking about Noble Court. We're talking about West End, Sharp End, Railroad Road. And to your credit, you did your work to say, hey, what happened? What did Housing Authority do? What are we fighting against? Why are people? Because recall Second Baptist, you had Mr. Beverly, you had John Lane. We had Black-owned property, and it was strategically taken. So now, in the heart of what Arise Dwellings is doing, is saying, how do we strategically give ownership back? And that's crucial. We had to go back to go forward, right? We had to do all the work, right?
We need both of those keys. We need both of those keys, old and new.
History is so important, Demarcus. I'm glad, I'm glad that you're bringing that history back. Is good to come back for younger people to talk about the histories of what happened, how it happened, so that we understand it, so that we don't get this new revised history of people. Sometimes I read the history of Columbia. I just been here long enough. I read the revised history of Columbia, and it makes me kind of tired because I know the real history.
Yes, ma'am.
And when I see history distorted, it bothers me tremendously, and I throw this in here all of the time, and I talk about, for instance, I know we're talking about housing, but I don't like a program where we just limit it to one thing, I looked at the thought about the Martin Luther King speech that he gave, and I was thinking about that. Is that I'm just going to ask people, who knows why Martin Luther King gave that speech? Did he come to that rally? Which you would assume that he came to that rally with that speech. I have a dream in his hand to give, right? That did not happen. As he was talking, he's already at the podium. He's talking to people about the conditions of America. Mahalia Jackson, who's sitting in the back, whom he had talked to. She didn't say, tell them about a dream you had last night. She said, tell them about your dream, which his dream was not a mental dream that came to him in the night. It was his dream for the future of America. Martin, tell them about your dream. Martin kept talking. Mahalia kept saying, Martin, tell them. She's sitting on the stage with him. Martin, tell them about your dream. So that's when I Have a Dream came forth out to all of us. And everybody perceives that he had the dream the night before of what was going to take place. And we need, history is so important for us. And so that's why when you talk about the history of how you and he came together to make something, he came and you're making something happen, and you're here with us. And hopefully this show will get that information out to the community to say that, yes, when people are talking about, I know that there's a housing seminar going on now, but when we're talking about we're talking about things that happen in Columbia and the history of Columbia, we need to make it real to people so that they can feel they need to feel what we're talking about.
We have a connection to that area down there too, because that area on Providence Road where they're building now, that was my grandfather's house. He was right there where Sexton Road hits
right next to that
Providence, where they're building right there. That one little house on the corner, the very next house was my grandfather's house. So that big tree that used to be there, I remember running around and playing. And I sat and looked at that property, and I would often tell my mother how I missed that area, that property there. And I was hoping that there would be something for the community that was put there that would be a benefit to the community, because I remember growing up in that area. So I have a connection. I have a love for that area down there too. And so I'm so glad that, there are houses in that first ward that are being utilized and renovated and accessible to not just low income, but to some people of color.
Those people, they own their homes,
right?
On that area,
right?
They own that home. And I have some history down there. When we first got married, my very first home was on 2nd Street, where the Coil company is there. There was a service station right there on that corner. The next house to that service station was my first home, until the urban renewal came through and swiped it all out, But I know that the Thorntons were on the corner, whatever that is, Providence Road and whatever that is. But anyway, there were the first ward it used to be second ward. It was the second ward. That Twin Hair Warren was the council person. It was the second ward, and we had. And we had a community block in there, and now we are shattered.
Yes.
And I say this, I got a lot of zeal, a lot of passion, so you'll hear that come through, but I say it humbly at the same time, recognizing that I only know what I know. But what you're describing, Miss Mary, is, and we talk about it all the time, just community that sees one another and knows one another,
Yes.
and is able to care for one another, is able to totally set the tone for what's going to go on in the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And even if there's other things happening in the neighborhood, that doesn't have a chance where there are people who know one another well
Yeah.
and who are looking out for each other's children.
That's it.
They're looking out for each other's blocks.
Mhm.
I mean, if you've got an issue and you know one another well enough, if there's enough of a built road between your houses and your neighbors, all of a sudden your problems have solutions, and they're just across the street.
That's it.
They're just across the street. And that reality is something we're missing.
Right.
Our communities are extremely fragmented.
Yeah.
They're broke down
Mhm.
in that way. And again, we're not the big thing in town. We're not any of that. We're just one piece of a puzzle that I believe, from my perspective, God is working in the city
Yeah.
to be able to express what He wants to see. And I think one of those things is community reestablished in the way you're describing.
Absolutely.
And you went back to the church.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. Like
That's it.
we went back to the what they call them, the well-worn paths.
Mhm.
You cannot. And this is what's been my beef, if you will, with new up and coming, social justice action. It's like you can't forsake the well-worn past, because you can only build on the foundation that was laid.
All
and
right.
and when we get outside of the foundation that was laid, we have a flash in the pan that just further sets us back, as Common said on the song Glory. He said-
Okay, he gets to go with me when I go speak. Okay, this is young and this
Get
is
ready.
old,
Pack your
okay?
luggage.
But you're right, because it says the wisdom of the elders and young person's energy. Like you
Right.
can't have them detached. And what happens is we see just atrocities when we detach the two. And so you took it back to the church. And I remember growing up knowing that across the street there was so and so who was a doctor, a horticulturist. It was all black. The church second was down the street. We could walk
Right.
to church and. The city is talking about violence intervention, but you cannot talk about violence intervention if you're not talking about putting these neighborhoods back together.
Absolutely.
And we got to have the communities.
One
Yes,
of the
ma'am.
things that is so important too is that home ownership. People take pride
Yes.
when they have home ownership.
Yes.
So when it's a lot different than a lot of rental property, because I can only, I live there. I can't put holes in the walls, and I can't go out and do my yard this way. But when you have home ownership, you can take pride in. I can go out and fix my yard up and make it nice, and keep my outdoor area nice. And my kids know that they have a comfortable place to come home to. The atmosphere is different because the neighborhood is different. When home ownership, people take pride in what is theirs, and so they're not out to just destroy or not take care of. And so it's very important. If you see the areas that they have done renovation to, the houses next to it, everything starts looking nice. People start taking pride in their things, in their homes, in their yards. And so it's very important to have that home ownership, and it's not easily obtained.
And one of the things that happen with the home ownership, if people are renting, and because I've had people talk with me, there's a little neighborhood down this Providence Road, where they, the owners keep the property kind of up outside, but something's falling apart inside. Well, the people that are renting the house, they're not going to take their money to fix up, buy them a new cabinet, buy them new things to fix up things in the house, because they don't own the house. And then the owners of the property don't fix it up and keep it fixed up. And then people talk about going into these rundown, renovated places. Well, they're charging them a fortune for rent to begin with.
Right.
And then they're not going to fix things, because I had those people talk to me a dozen times about one of the things that happened. For instance, they talked with me about the apartments and the way that they were built. In the back, there's the parking there, and there's great big light up back there, light post up back there. And they said, this light have not, and it's dark back there, and then the woods go off in there. And they go, this light have not been on for years. Well, the people that moved in there knew me, and they called me. And I, of course, went to the city. And I said, there's this light, and it's rusty. I'm looking up here. You can tell it hasn't been on forever, And of course, it was the assistant city manager at that time was there. And I said to him, you can tell that it's old, rusty, haven't been fixed for years, And he said, I'll take care of it. And so to my amazement, the next day, they called me and said, we got a light in the back. So, we need somebody, we need to advocate. We got to, Demarcus, we've got to get out here in this community and look and say, you got to see, you got to see these properties got to be taken care of,
I ain't trying to chase every rabbit that pops out of the bush here, but that one I want to chase really quickly because it illustrates something very important. Okay, those poles are city placed on private property. They no longer do that anymore. So they don't maintain them. They don't look at them. They don't have eyes on them. In fact, they're kind of waiting for them to go out. I won't tell you who told me that, but somebody in the city who works at Power and Light. When they go out, if they go dysfunctional, they have to now have a conversation with property owners. Do you want to keep this pole on your property, or we'd encourage you to go ahead and take it out and figure out your own private lighting on your own private property, because it was a past practice. It's just one example of if we have people on post across our community in the different spaces and places, whether it's housing or education, whether it's healthcare or community relations with violence. When we have people who know these places and spaces like the back of their hand, and we're working together, we're able to see the cracks in the wall, or even just yourself connected relationally, and you can say, hey, I don't know anything about Power and Light, but this is a problem. And then there's an ability to be able to build a bridge.
Well, they were able to, there were a couple of properties that they were able to take care of, because the one out with on Hillsborough and this property here, I don't know who owns it, how they owned it anyway, but I do know that the city got out there and fixed the lights. Okay, so that's it. And all I'm saying is we want the lights fixed. I don't care who fixes them.
Yep.
We don't want people coming out their back door in the dark that they can't see. But
we don't want those areas to be forgotten. That's what's happening. Those are forgotten areas. When you go in there, those areas are pitch black. That's dangerous. So you're putting people in a situation that's not good. To start with, people are not feeling comfortable in their own homes. They're not feeling comfortable walking, back and forth in those areas. And so it's only right that if we find that out, that we be responsible and do something about it. But it's good to have those connections, and we can't have those connections if we're not visual. If people don't know that we're around.
Sometimes maybe maybe the tenants don't know who to call or don't call anybody,
or they don't get a response when they do.
Maybe they don't get a response when they do. I don't know, but but many of them sometimes don't know who to call. And it's that's still the thing. Who it's not what you know, is who you know is so important.
Right.
Very important.
Right. Well, and another question I want to ask you all about your program. You have contractors. What if there are some African American contractors that would be interested in getting on board with what you all are doing? Is there a way or a means for them to do that?
Absolutely, yeah. So by design, we are actually working with a majority minority set of contractors as it is, because of relationships.
Right.
These are men that we have known, skilled men. I could start name dropping some brothers to get them out there. But if you want, I got a list of contractors I'd be willing to share to anybody who's interested, because they do incredible work.
Right.
And so as it relates to others who may be interested, absolutely, they're welcome to hit us up on that phone number or on the website. Again, arisedwellings.com or the phone number I mentioned earlier. And we love working with locals, especially locals that are from the neighborhood and for the neighborhood.
Right.
And that's so important, because I found out that I had a problem, a leakage problem, okay? And it's important for us to be able to get the names of those contractors out there, because the person that I happen to know, Gary Lewis, for instance, contractor, and I said, and we're friends, and I said, I'm having this problem, I'm having trouble getting somebody out. He goes, give you this name of this person to call. And I go, I know this person, whole family. I did not know that. I did not know that he was I did plumbing, and he came out, and in 15 minutes, this is the truth, in 15 minutes, he had my leak stopped. And and I won't tell who it was because the fee was, shocked me to death, and so I'm not gonna tell anybody else, so you may not get that fee, okay? But anyway, he fixed my leak in 15 minutes, and I'm going, I know your whole family. I did not know, and all I'm saying is that our people sometimes cannot afford to advertise to the degree that the larger
and
companies.
then sometimes they have to do things. They don't get the big contracts because of bonds.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot get those bonds. Sometimes the city has things that they could possibly do and they're qualified to do, but to get bonded, I mean, it could be thousands and thousands and
And the
thousands.
companies knows the
of
way
dollars.
to get those done without having to
Exactly.
go through all of these procedures.
And so a lot of times,
and I know that because of
smaller
my
businesses.
husband and his being a contractor, and I know that there's a lot of times, sometimes the buildings that's being built are so expensive, and the bonding would be, sometimes even for us, it would be out of reach but the contractors know how to, they can carry them on their bonding thing if they want to.
right.
And they can choose to do that, And so we just need to I think that we need to do a lot of seminars, and you guys would be excellent, to talk about all of the issues that surrounds what you're doing, and to give some headway into the community, because there are a lot of people out there that would like to buy a home, but they have to be able to afford a home. We don't want folks buying a home and then losing a home,
And see, that just kind of fell into where I was going to ask her, what kind of obstacles did you all run into when you were trying to get this program going? I know that there's probably a million little things, or maybe a few big ones, but what kind of obstacles did you run into any brick walls that made you have to back it up and reprogram or anything like that?
And before Scott gets, because I know Scott, the thing is, the man,
because I know he's coming.
the man's the truth. Like, and it's because he holds on to the one who is the truth, and the amount of pushback and brick walls and all that, and I can speak on behalf for it and say, he's like, okay, well, walls can move. There's people who would quit, right? And so with on the lens of even the SCLC, the reason we even thought, because we hit a lot of legislation issues.
Right.
One of them we were talking about the bonding. Well, ARPA, right? ARPA requests federally there has to be a minority spend, but there's a catch. If the minority cannot bid and cannot produce the best bid, then the bid goes to the best bidder.
Exactly.
Well, the bidding process is so strenuous that the brothers that Scott's working with and has contracted couldn't even get through the door because there's already all these things set up by the ones who are by design. It's there. It's legislation. And so what these companies who are out here who are known to do this, they have what is called minority spend. So they'll be buying their rocks from a minority contract, but yet the minority is getting paid pennies on the dollar from what they're getting, so they become the best bid. And so all of this, it's a divine setup, because even your funding source then gives you the ability to say, no, we're gonna work with who we're gonna work with, because there's no red tape of ARPA. So even these black organizations that are out here getting these ARPA funds, they don't realize that you're still
because what the contractor does is that the contractor gets the job and then they sub it, and that's where that increase is on their behalf. You're getting this small amount, the contractor's getting this big amount, and so that's where you're running into a problem. And a lot of the small businesses, after they've hit that wall 2 or 3 times, they just don't even attempt to. What usually ends up happening is that small business, after running into those obstacles, then they say, as opposed to me opening up a business, hiring me some more employees to do the job, then I'm just going to go and become that small little, I don't want to say homebody company, but a company where people just call and I just go do one little small job at a time. And even though it's my trade, I'm making couple $1,000s a month that gets me by, as opposed to or I'm underbidding myself in order to be able to even do the job. Instead of everybody else, it's $10,000, but I'll do it for $5,000 if I can just get the job and maybe make $200 or $300 on top of what I've done, as opposed to making what everyone else is making. So I find a lot of people say that is the reason why they don't get a building and expand, because they can't get ahead that way. And so I was wondering, like the people that you all are using, that's why I was asking, was there a way for some people to get involved in this where they can maybe get connected to be able to be a part of what you all are doing?
And Scott found this solution, because I worked for an organization and we had million, probably plus, honestly, we had other contracts where we could spend. And I had these individuals tell me personally, I'm never going to put in a bid. You know how much money it cost me to try to even do the bidding process?
Exactly.
And so it had to go to one of the, bigger corporation contractors, because they could not even begin to bid for it. And so the solution that really God dropped in your lap to be able to do what you're doing. And then the second thing is, I was there at council chambers when the man from Long Island Divide came to Columbia. And he talked about, he said, and all the brokers and real estate agents were there, and he says, look, I hate to tell y'all this, but redlining is alive and well in your communities. And you are, if it's not in your policy to not be prejudiced in the way you're selling and showing houses, you're doing that. And they're like, oh, we're not. And he showed his presentation, and the room was silent, because they knew. Because one person said, well, they're not, no one's complaining. He says, how would you know to complain if you don't know
about?
Yes, ma'am. If you don't know the process, you can't complain. You don't know what someone else is getting. It's not that you're being mean, it's that you're being prejudiced by what the process you're taking them through. So one of the things he mentioned, and Scott has a lot on it, he's been through this with so many buyers, right, is the issue of, if I have a loan that has not been, I have not been given the approval. So an agent would not show me a house, but someone my same demographic, but they're white, goes in, the agency then says, we'll go ahead and show you the house because we assume that you will be approved. And that alone was happening.
Not only that, a lot of times then it's like, well, this is where you're falling short. This is what you need to do in order to get the loan. And if you do this, then we'll be able to approve that loan. A lot of times when African Americans go and try to get that loan approval and they're not approved, they don't get the education, I should say. They're not educated. They don't give them the education to say, if you just do this, this, and this, then you'll be able to do this. I think that's where we're falling short. In that area, is that the education is not there. They're not getting that same opportunity that people that are not African American are getting.
But I'm going to give you opportunity to come and really talk to the opportunity to really come and talk with the NAACP, so that we can help move this process. We can help move this. And I'm going to take this young man with me. Anyway, I've been sitting here, thinking a long time about the fact that, we haven't really had a national leader since Dr. Martin Luther King. We are, and I know people saying there's different people doing different things and that sort of thing. Everything needs a leader. Everything. You can't do anything in a job. You got to have a supervisor. You got to have a leader, a manager. In the football game, you got to have a coach. You got to have all of these things. We are missing that. We are fragmented right now. We need some national leader to pull us together. And that's what we have to start looking for, is a national leader to pull all of these organizations and these things that we're trying to do together to make them happen, because we've got to make our government work for us. We've got to make our communities work for us. we have to have leadership and direction. And we say, and I have one of my mentors say, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail.
Right.
Okay? And so we have to make sure that we understand that it takes some bold leadership, some unafraid people to step forward and say, we're going to do this, and we're going to start off, and if it's 1, 2, or 3 of us, we're just going to keep on marching. And my favorite little poem is, somebody said that it couldn't be done, but he was a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. So he buckled right in with a bit of a grin on his face. If he worried, he hit it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. I believe in that. I was taught that as a little kid in grade school, and I've carried it with me all of my life, and I repeat it when I feel like I need to. Because there is nothing, we've been endowed by somebody whose being is much higher than ours.
Yep.
We have been endowed to do whatever we decide to do. We have there where there's a will, there is a way. And it may not be you that get it accomplished, but then you start looking out at people like you and you. Like me, I'm looking out at younger people now with the who's going to be here much longer than I am, to take this walk, take this step, and to be trained and to be committed to the fact that we can make the change. We just gotta stick with it and make the change. And this housing thing that you are coming up with is just excellent, and I want you to bring that to our community, because I didn't know that you were doing this.
So, to be honest, we haven't done a lot of talking because everybody does talking before they do producing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to try to produce something that was able to be talked about. And it's starting to work. You asked a question I want to just hit up on that touches with your poem. What's the greatest challenge?
Mm-hmm.
And I could talk about lending. I could talk about the challenges there. It's huge. But we're seeing people step up. We're seeing some pretty amazing small group of lenders from a couple different institutions who are saying we are going to step up and we know the ins and the outs, and we're not going to take no for an answer.
Okay.
I could take some names out. I'll just leave that for now as well. But there are men and women out there that are doing it in the lending institutions, and they're fighting the battles. Literally, been on the phone with them today. I got a loan that's going to be closing. One closed yesterday. One's supposed to close tomorrow. Got another one closing in 2 weeks. Another one in a month. And these families have been fought for. This is starting to happen, and it's been centered around education. So I could talk about the lending complications, but that's not the biggest challenge. I could talk about the financial challenges, and we've had breakthroughs in that respect. I could talk about sourcing work or material costs, but honestly, the biggest challenge has been myself.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is we will be limited to the extent that we think it's all up to us.
Mm-hmm.
We are better together than we are apart.
Yes.
And if we can find ways to work together
Yes.
in team. Now I'm a Christian, I follow Jesus. And what I've watched that as we humble ourselves before God and believe Him at His word, and then we trust that His answers are going to come, they're always going to come through people working together, because that's His nature. And again, I'm not trying to preach, I will if I need to, but I mean, He's a God of unity. He's a God of unity, real, true, deep, abiding unity across every barrier you can imagine in Himself. And that's been the biggest thing when we've tried to make great headway, and I've tried to push on my own strength. I have physically gotten hurt. I have lit, DeMarcus can tell you, I'm in every other prayer meeting, hey, would you pray for this or pray for that? But in all seriousness, where I have yielded to team, I just represent about 50 contractors behind me. I represent business partners who have been willing to put their own assets on the line. I've got people that are from many different ethnicity groups that are working together across linguistic barriers and social barriers and economic barriers, and they're becoming a team. And to the extent that we can develop a team in this community across, again, whatever the issue is, whether it's housing, education, etc., I think that's where we're going to see the most progress. And I just want to echo what you said, DeMarcus. I really do believe the church has an opportunity. to step up and be a central figure in helping bring change in that collaborative effort. Because we can, to your point, Miss Mary, we can move forward if we don't quit and give up. And that's not some political mantra, it's reality. And that's what we've experienced, is that where we have wanted to give up, I could give you those listed contractors. You could call them and you could ask them a separate question after you have them do your work for you. Hey, has he wanted to give up a bunch of days? Yep. And those brothers have been there to encourage and to support and to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, you go home. I got this, because we're working together.
And that's where team, you wouldn't, so he works on, he's, like he said, boots on the ground, putting money where his mouth is, hands and heads and feet. And we went and we said, okay, let's go legislate. We need to holler at those who are doing the ARPA grants. DED, what's going on? Department of Economic Development. Why is the bidding process? You know what we bump into, Miss Ratliff? Well, you know, Mary Ratliff was here. Like, well, then listen to what she's been saying. This is affecting things. So even as you said, when they hear that second, it's like, okay, NAACP and Mary them ain't by themselves. There's other people that's we hear. Listen to what she said. Go talk to her. I think of House of Brokers. They had Miss Mary. Mary, y'all need to talk to her. And I think that I don't know about the nation, Miss Mary, but as far as Columbia and Boone County go, we moving. We moving forward. Y'all have laid tracks, and we doing this.
We shared that with them. I think that we were talking somewhere. And I know with the when she votes women, and I was sharing with them is that I have that how we voted, and in the last, I don't know if I got it with me, and where we voted at such a low rate, and St. Louis and Kansas City did far worse than we did, and Missouri is considered a red state, which there's Democratic and Republican, Republican red, Democrats blue. We say that we still believe, in that the fairness of the people is for all of the people. That Columbia is that little blue dot in this big red state, but Columbia is this little blue dot in this total red state. Now we got some problems. We've got a number of problems, that we still, but we are a little bit up on most of the rest of the state of Missouri, in that we are inclusive of all people. For instance, when we started the When She Votes group, it is nonpartisan. Anybody can join. Our churches are nonpartisan. Anybody can join, And so we have the opportunity in Missouri. And I say this when I'm talking, wherever I'm talking in Missouri, we have the opportunity for you to be like us. And I especially say that to our NAACP units all over the state of Missouri. You have the opportunity to be like us, because all we did was go out there to the people and say, we can't do this by ourselves. We respect what you're doing, and we hope that you respect what we're doing, but let's come together and make it happen. Let's go to the city and tell them the problems that we have with them. Let's see if we can work. We meet monthly. I met this past Tuesday. We meet monthly with the city administration, with the city manager, police chief, and all of. We meet monthly with the school board, with the superintendent of schools. We meet monthly with the county, with Jonathan and all that group. We meet monthly with them so that we can talk about what's happening in the county, what's happening in the city, what's happening in our school that we need to be a part of, and how can we help. We don't go, and I don't go into any meeting. We don't go into any meeting to go in there and just complain. I wouldn't be meeting with you just to complain about what is happening in the city and what is not happening. I go into every meeting that I go into with the, and he knows I tell him that all the time. I don't go in with just coming to complain about what is not. I come in to say, hey, I'm here to help make a change, to move forward, not stay where we are, not to move back, and we can't forget about the past. But so how do we move Well, let's
Right.
do something.
And with that being said, we have to kind of veer off here a little bit, but we have to remember that we're coming up on an election time. That election that is coming up is going to play a big part in even this housing.
Mhm.
So we need to make sure that everyone
And your
that
program.
is able and your
Your
program
program
will be affected. We
Okay.
need to make sure that everyone that is able to go out and vote will take advantage of that and go out and vote. We need no one sitting at home at this time, because in order for there to be change, we need to be on one accord. And we know that we cannot tell you who to vote for, but we can tell you that the issues that are out there, we can tell you the needs that are out there, and then you have to make that decision as to where you want to be when you're going to vote. But we do need to tell you that you need to vote.
Mhm.
You need to make your voice count, because that's one of the things a lot of people say
Mhm.
is that my voice is not
Don't
heard
count.
and my
Yeah.
vote does not count. But your vote does count, and so we need everyone that is able to go out and vote so that you can make a difference in your community.
Mhm.
We know that economics is a big issue right now. I think everyone is touching upon the fact that groceries are high, even housing is high, and all of that. So they're looking for ways to make a change with that. We also know that democracy is an issue. We know that unity plays a big part. We need to be united as a country.
Mhm.
We need to be united. Now, see, I'm a Christian too, so I'd say be united around God.
Mhm.
That's me. But we need to be united as a country. And so we need to look at the issues that are out there. We need to look at the candidates, not just at the top. We need to look at the candidates from the bottom up. We need to look at people, even your county officials, your city
All
officials.
of it makes a
We
difference.
need to look at who's running, and we need to make sure that the people that we're putting in office are people that are like-minded with us when it comes to making decisions, that have an interest in making sure that everyone has an opportunity to live freely in this country, be able to be homeowners in this country. And so we need to just get out there and vote. That's what we need to do at this time.
Absolutely. And we need to be, one of the things that I share all the time is that don't just vote. Don't go to the voting booth and just look in there and say, hey, I remember seeing this name. Let me vote for that person. If you have not studied, and I will say this to people, that you are not required to vote for anybody on that slate, and it doesn't keep you from voting for anybody that you want to vote for on that slate. And that's why wouldn't you vote for Proposition A? Think about it. That helps working families. Why would you need to study that to make sure that you're doing the right thing when you go to, and we have those cards here of suggestions of things that the NAACP has said, yes, we will absolutely vote on, and no, we will absolutely not vote on, that we would recommend you not vote on. But we can give this is the NAACP position, but we are asking you, one of the things that we said is be informed, be heard.
Mm-hmm.
So that is your decision about what you do once you're informed. And if you have questions, you need to call your representative, call the county clerk, call the people that you're talking to, and find to get these things clarified for you that you don't know if you have not had a chance to study them. So, and it is so important that we and I noticed that large numbers of people are going to the polls. We don't know how they got it. They say they don't open them until when, so I'm going, how you know who voted for what, So it doesn't matter if you take a Republican or a Democratic ballot, they're not supposed to know who you voted for any way, one way or the other. So we are just encouraging people to get out there and vote. And also, a while before I forget it, I'm still going to invite all of you that can and will. There's so many things going on Saturday that I was almost inclined to cancel activities that we got going on, but I feel that it's so important that we are having a panel discussion at Second Baptist Church from 11 to 2 on the panel on the Willie Lynch's letter speech that so many people are not familiar with, that affects what affects the 2025 upcoming election, and what will happen in that election was taken right off of that Willie Lynch's letter. And so all of you out there that have a cell phone with the Google on it, you can just Google Willie Lynch's speech, and it'll all come up. And he told the South how to make a slave and how to keep the African American folks' minds enslaved for 300 plus years. And so we're going to talk about those issues that are still clouding our minds, that are not allowing us to do all of the things that.
And some people would say, well, why is that important? We're in 2024. Why is it important that we even discuss anything? But what that letter did was to say, there's a way to enslave the African American mind where Black folks will never be able to work together.
Mhm.
I envy you for this reason. You envy me for this reason. And so it's very important that we understand that we have to break that link. We have to break that mentality. And that's the only way that we can move forward as a community and as a people, is that we break that. So it's very important that we understand why we feel the way we feel, and it's real, it's true, and we see it in the community. We talk about it happening.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that it's there. We just have to find a way to break that link so that we can move forward and have the pride that anyone would have in this nation, as not just homeowners, but as a citizen of the United States of America.
And it's just like, for instance, and I should, share this, is that we talk about, how can that happen? People got the minds of their own, etc. And I started thinking about, and from a child, we were taught, and I still do, Merry Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Merry Christmas. Nobody can get that out of my head. Forever, that's embedded. It's Merry Christmas to me, and you can teach it, say it any kind of way you want. That's the way the Willie Lynch's letter programmed us. We were programmed as kids to say Merry Christmas.
And now they want you to say Happy Holiday.
Yeah. And so, but I don't, you can't take that away from me.
Right.
I'm still going to say Merry Christmas, hang Merry Christmas on my door, put a Merry Christmas card, and
Right.
all those kinds of things.
It's Christmas in the household.
That's Christmas in the household. So that's an example. When you just think of a simple thing, that's an example of how our minds can get. And why? Because our parents and their parents embedded it in our mind. So the Willie Lynch, in the speech that he gave back in that day, and the people took it and used it to enslave slaves and to keep them enslaved, that they used that. And so sometimes some of the things that happened, it told us how to pit the light complexion Negroes against the Black Negroes, how to, and how the slave owners put those people over these people, so that these people would envy them, and they would be thinking that they were better than these people so they couldn't come together. There was no way for them to come together. And so those are the kinds of things that they went through with each one of those issues. And those are the kinds of things that when we are going to have the panel discussion on Saturday at Second Baptist Church at 11 o'clock, that we're going to try to bring out.
Right. So we're going to have that panel. So we invite each of you that if you're in the Columbia area to come on down to Second Baptist Church at 11 o'clock this Saturday to see how we open up that Willie Lynch letter. And yes, bring everyone. We also would like to say that on Monday, the NAACP is sponsoring an event where we are going to line the streets from the City Hall all the way to Providence Road with signs saying "Go Vote." We are asking organizations. We have the League of Women Voters. We have the When She Votes. We have the sororities. We have the fraternities. A lot of different groups that are going to all get together, and we're going to just chain our way from City Hall down to Providence Road, reminding people to get out and vote. And so we would like to invite you to that. And then on Tuesday night, there's a candidates forum at Second Missionary Baptist Church. Is it at 7 or 6 o'clock? 7 o'clock p.m. 7 o'clock p.m. at Second Missionary Baptist Church, 4th and Broadway here in Columbia, where we have the candidates come. So if you're not familiar with the candidates or you don't know who you want to vote for, this is an opportunity for you to come, ask questions, get to know your candidates so you can make an informed decision when you are voting. We want everyone to be informed. I've already voted because I have been informed, but I want everyone else to go and get informed so that you can make a right decision when you're voting, and that is Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. And I know we're running out of time here. I do want to take the opportunity. This has been exciting for me. Mm-hmm. This has been a great podcast. We're going to have y'all back. We've got so much more to ask you all and talk to you about. But we would like to thank you all for being here. We would also like to say the information, if you would like to get in contact with them, we will have your information up on our podcast. And I'm going to have you say it once again before we close out, but we will have that information there. We'd also like you to take the opportunity to ask us questions, to get in contact with us. Tell us what you'd like to see. Tell us what you want to see more of. Tell us or ask us anything about any of the podcasts that we have. You can do that at truthofthematterinone@gmail.com. truthofthematterinone@gmail.com. And if you would, we'd like you all to please give your names and give the information where you can be reached at.
Yes, again, Scott Claybrook, one of the team with Arise Dwellings. You can find more information about what we're doing at arisedwellings.com. That's ARISE dwellings, DWELLINGS.com, or reach out to us, text or call at 573-315-4030. And we're specifically built for you. We're built to serve our community, and specifically neighbors, black and brown, who have not had access. We want to serve you. So we're here to help.
And as you know, DeMarcus Thomas Brown, you can reach me at d.thomas_brown@live.com if that's pertaining to anything in the community, representative of Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Everything that they mentioned, we're going to be at. We highly support and work hand in hand with NAACP. If there was no NAACP, there would not be a Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And so, and take it seriously. Our minds are where we get captivated, right? And that's what Willie Lynch knew. If we can get the mind, if we can get you to think like a slave, you'll stay a slave. So this stuff is important, and it's important that we're liberated, so that we can actually put our hands to plow, feet to the ground, and actually see change. So I thank y'all for what y'all been doing and what you're doing.
And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank both of you. This has been very informative, and then to also share with you that either of your organization, you feel free to call the NAACP when we can be of any kind of assistance to you at all. I am so impressed to hear of what your both are doing in Columbia, because sometimes when you're working so hard and you just wonder where is everybody, and they're out there working also. So please, it is by and those of us here, it is by the grace of God that we were able to come together, to get to know each other, and hopefully this will be a long working relationship, and that together that we can make Columbia what it ought to be. And it can only be what it ought to be with us putting into it all that we have. We can make the difference. And so we are committed, the NAACP is committed to making a difference. We're committed to working with organizations such as yours to make things happen.
Okay. So once again, we'd like to thank you for joining us at The Truth of the Matter Is with Mary and Pam, and we hope that you will subscribe and like our channel. And the truth of the matter is.